And it's very interesting. I know that one of the frustrations for teachers is having the children clean up afterwards. And it's one of the first stages of playing with blocks is dumping them. And it's always like, okay, so stay the course and wait until they're through that dumping stage and help them through that, because that's something everyone has to go through. Even adults will sort of dump everything out to see what it looks like first and figure out the properties of it, and then the building begins. There's many different stages of block building, and when the children get building more intricate buildings and building up, as we call it, or out, or anything that they want to design, they really naturally go to look for things to embellish. So we have a loose parts part over here by our block center. We have some in other areas. I was talking about the constructivist book that I read. There's many different versions of the stages of block play. And that's sort of where we began to learn about how children build with blocks and what we can maybe expect. But just like any kind of development, it doesn't happen all the time in order, and we decided that wasn't what we were looking for. What stage are these children at? We sort of keep that in the back of our head so that we know what kind of materials to offer them. So in that book and in other places, we found where children who are at the sort of building enclosures, that's a great time to have animals out, because they'll build enclosures and they'll make farms, or for their people they'll make farms. And then when they need to do something else, you might add a different kind of material, or you might ask them a question when they're ready to sort of start to get them to build higher, like we did with when we wanted them to build up. That was our goal, is to sort of get them building up so that we can sort of get them into the next stage and get thinking about it. But what surprised us the most this year was that these children went off the charts with building. I had never in my life seen it before, but not only did they build very tall and intricate buildings and go through the stages of block play as I knew them, they went much farther beyond them. We had a group that was so into building that they figured out, they actually built it right in this area. They had the longest block standing up, and they figured out how to build a supporting beam that would support enough of the blocks that they actually went in and out of the block structure. They were tall SK boys. They were the tallest and the biggest children in our classroom. So you can imagine how big that area must have been for them to be able to come in. And then one of them one day noticed the pole in our classroom. And I said, you know what is that? And we talked about that. It was a supporting beam, just like the support beam that they had underneath their building. And that building stood for 2 or 3 days. And our administrator came down to visit one day. And again, I said, okay, now take a deep breath before you come in. But after we get past the safety, because it's safe, it's stable, come and take a close look at what these children have done. And he came in and was lovely with them and came under, and he saw a spot that wasn't structurally sound. And then there was a discussion about shims and how you shim it up to make it so that it could actually be structurally sound, using all the engineering language that we all could muster at the time. And the boys tried it. Later that day, the building did fall down. No one was in it when it started. Actually, it didn't fall. It was just starting to get a little tipsy. And I heard the conversation, and they said, you know what, it's not safe anymore. We need to take it down. And so we stood back and we watched. And not only did they take it down, they didn't put the blocks away on the shelves. I looked over, and all along the floor there were piles of blocks, but they were all piled size by size and I said, boys, what's going on? It looks like you have a plan. And they said, well, we're going to rebuild. We didn't want to put them on the shelf, but we wanted to organize what we needed. And then they went back and they built it bigger and they built it stronger. And then it was able to stay for quite a few days.